We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day's going well. It is Thursday, and I couldn't be more delighted to be back home in Minnesota. Now, I love Savannah, Georgia, but when I was dealing with the Wi Fi where I was, it wasn't going well. I had a lot of difficulties. I did a Substack live yesterday, and I was just going to run that. And then when I downloaded it, it was only 22 minutes, and I'd gone an hour and 15 minutes. So that wasn't going to work. So what I had to do is the first TikTok live I did the other night kind of was having some technical difficulties, but I was able to finish it. I didn't use that. I used a second TikTok live that I had. And since the Substack wasn't there, I had to go back to the first TikTok live to make sure something was up there. Some guy wrote me a letter, wrote me a note. He says, I couldn't listen to it. Get a better connection. I just got this to say to you, motherfucker. I'm here every goddamn day, every day. And how many times have you had that problem with what we're doing? Not very often. Just lighten up, give me a fucking break, and settle in because we've got a good one this time around. I am home. I've got good Wi-Fi, and I've got Old Soul. So suck on that. Hey, Old Soul, how you doing?
I'm good. The last time, I wasn't even going to say this until you just said that, but the last time I did a TikTok live, somebody sent me a message and called me a witch, right? And the reason that I guess I deserved to be called a witch was, remember how I said that red states are not worried about, Trump messing with them? I was like, but all he's going to do is deny disaster relief, dismantle FEMA, and let Mother Nature take its course or something like that. So he doesn't need
Right.
to, intrude on red states when he could just like let y'all fend for yourselves because you can't handle it. Um, but anyway, so the floods and stuff happened, and apparently because I said that I'm a witch,
Now,
I
did
just
she say that? Did she say that in a mean way or a nice way? Saying you were right.
I mean, no, I don't know how to take it because it's just words, you know what I mean? And I don't know this person, but yeah, yeah.
Just a tip. The way you say things can kind of put a tone on something. Now, if you were just congratulating her, or at least acknowledging her for, guessing right that there would be some natural disaster, and you're going, "Wow, she knew." You're a witch. Um, Words make a difference. It
Yeah,
might have been easier to say, "Wow, old, you're a prophet." It would have been a little nicer to say it that way, unless you meant it not to be nice. And if that's the case, fuck off.
it's kind
So,
of weird. I don't know how they didn't know that this was going to happen. Like, what did they think was going to happen when Donald Trump said he would dismantle FEMA? I don't know, but I think I understand that these people just don't know about the government, and maybe they don't. What I've been learning is just a lot of stuff that I never paid attention to. Like, I
right.
never worried about meteorologists and weather forecasting and weather balloons. I never worried about stuff like that because a lot of the services that the government provides is there. It's like it's just always been there. So I don't have to think about those things. And I think with some of these people, a lot of stuff that's happening when they say just let the whole thing burn down or we don't need a government, states this and all that type of stuff, they don't really play the tape through to understand that your state is backed up by the federal government. Um,
Right.
yeah, I think that they don't think about stuff like that, and now they don't have a choice but to think about it. Just like all of us have to think about stuff we never did before, departments we never knew existed, roles that people played we never knew existed. It's a lot of stuff that we just didn't know that we're just now being exposed to. Stuff we shouldn't probably have to think about, but we do. So I
Yeah,
guess
we
I'll give.
think about a lot of things we never thought about before and shouldn't have to be thinking about at this point. Now, Old Soul and I are going to get off on, all the stuff with the flooding and Jeffrey Epstein and all that sort of stuff. But people know how much of an activist she is and how involved she is. She's got boots on the ground and protest and that sort of thing. And I wanted to talk to Old Soul about bringing you up to date with some of the things she's been involved in. And I got a text from your brother yesterday, and he was kind of worried about you because you were kind of upset and kind of laying low yesterday. And he told me the circumstances that caused you to be upset. I know this is tough for you to talk about, but I think it's important we do talk about it so people understand how horrible some of the things are going on. So tell us what happened that put you in that state of mind yesterday.
Two things, but the first
I'll give
one
you the
was
first one.
we were bringing some, because people don't understand, like, I'm not like a military person, but I've been around them since they've been like helping the women out. And so they talk about stuff like a drag net that has been extended. We have to go this way or that way. So they constantly have to change their plans up. And a lot of people, they don't realize, they're like, why are all these like women and children and being rounded up by ICE? So what they're doing is there's a lot of OBs where they take like Hispanic people who have maybe like broken English or English isn't their first language, or maybe they're just more comfortable with a doctor that's culturally familiar with them. And so they've been stalking out clinics and stuff like that that have women in pediatrics. And so they've been
Right.
like stalking that place out and rounding women up that way. But anyway, we're supposed to get two girls, but because of what was going on in California, they needed to map something else out. And they were telling them that like you have to kind of like stay in place, like don't go nowhere, don't do anything. You have to stay where you're at. But I don't know what happened. I don't know why they made that decision, but they left and they've been gone ever since. So we were pretty sure because of the area that they were in, that most likely, because that's where the dragnet had expanded to. Don't ask me these terms. This is just how they explain it to me. Because they had expanded that dragnet out. So before they were outside of where ICE was, but then they
Right.
expanded it further. And then all of a sudden they was like right in the zone of where they were at. And for whatever reason they left, and then we hadn't seen them since then. So
So
we're
just so
pretty
just
sure they're
people
gonna, but we don't know.
just so people understand, Old Soul works with a lot of pregnant young women, girls even, and helps them through the process, whatever that process is. And she was going out to help two young women. And when she got there, they were nowhere to be found, and nobody knows where they are. And the presumption is that they were picked up by ICE. I'm assuming they're immigrant
Yeah,
young ladies.
I was
Uh,
um I was supposed to go this weekend, and so I was making plans for that, and then we found out that they were like just what they call them, they disappeared them, so they
right.
disappeared. And, we're pretty
Well,
sure
people
that's
have
what
to
rights
people
and
have to understand why you're upset about this. If they don't know already, most people should. But in fact, when she was in California, Old Soul was picked up and spent some time in a nice detention unit. Now she's born and raised in America, and she was ultimately let out. But you see what goes on in those circumstances, and you're imagining young women who are pregnant in these detention camps or units, and they happen to be immigrants. And I think the reason you were upset yesterday was because you know what goes on in those places, and it's pretty troubling.
yeah, yeah. I don't know how anybody could. I mean, it's a setup for women, children, and women who are pregnant. And when you're going to an OB office, you're running into women who are pregnant, you're running into regular women, and you're running into children. And they're not criminals. Um,
No,
yeah, so that was
but
pretty tough.
it
It just
when it
was,
comes to Republicans, though, these two women are significant criminals to them because they happen to be immigrants. They happen to be pregnant, looking to get some reproductive help. They don't like either one of those things. And you wonder if they find out these women are pregnant, if that just adds to the problems for them.
yeah, because they have a hard on right now for birthright citizenship. So I'm just assuming that maybe that has something to do with why they're targeting these women.
Yeah.
Um, but that's just me thinking logical, and there's no logical thinking in this other than it's just racism and hate. But I'm just thinking that maybe that has something to do with it, but I don't know. And then I think the other part too is, we just had a week or so ago the pregnant woman who miscarried in there, and then they disposed of her baby and then sent her to Guatemala. So you just kind of, you hear and you see stuff like that, and you just try not to let it keep playing in your mind, but you can't really help it.
I don't know if you heard the two quotes from Tom Homan and Kristi Noem. You'll love this one. Tom Homan came on television and he was demanding that people stop calling ICE agents racist and Nazis because
Mm.
somebody could get hurt. It could be an ICE agent, could be an immigrant. I got news for Tom Homan. People are already getting hurt, and it's being caused by your ICE agents who are behaving like racist and Nazis. So if you don't want to be called a racist and Nazis, don't behave that fucking way. And then this is the good one. This is one you're going to like. Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem was talking about it too. She reiterated what he was saying. You know, you shouldn't be calling them racist and Nazis. They don't care if people are black or brown or normal. That's what she said. As if white people are normal and everybody else is just weirdly a different color. These people don't even know when they're being racist. They just say shit. That's their mindset, and they're racist. They say racist shit and say, "Don't call us racist." Sorry, bitch, you are a racist.
They know they're racist. They're just gaslighting. I think that,
But they're doing it so badly.
yeah, I think it's just gaslighting. You know what I mean? Like this is all it is. It's like I didn't know who this guy was, but I started hearing all that stuff about him, the older millennial or something like that,
Older
when
millennial, yeah.
for his DUI and all that other kind of crap. And I kept seeing all these people making videos about Trump supporters, like he has an addiction. Where's your compassion? Where's this? Where's that? And I'm like, these people were ready to like hang Hunter Biden like from 50 floors up because he used to be a drug addict. There's no compassion there for him at all. They have
No.
no problem with alligator Alcatraz. They have no problem seeing children being ripped away from their mothers. They have no problem seeing schools being raided, churches being raided, parks with horses and trampling around. They have no problem with that. But some dude gets locked up for a DUI and it's like, okay, thank God he didn't kill anybody, right? And they're just
Yeah.
like, well, where's your compassion? Where's your empathy? And it's just the I don't even know how to verbalize the entitlement right there. You know what I mean? Like we could do whatever the hell we want to you. We can say whatever the hell we want to you. But if you look at us wrong, it's like, oh my gosh, you hurt my feelings. It is insane that they are like that. I think that they would be nothing if they couldn't be victims, and so they just kind of play that part to the hilt. Um, I didn't tell you, oh gosh. So my oldest daughter and Kelsey, they were going to go to Mexico, like for kind of like a spring break summer thing. I don't know, something was going on there, and they wanted to go. And so I was like, okay, yeah, making plans to go. But then we find out that my oldest daughter would be okay to go, but my youngest daughter would not be okay to go because she's white and she has a Southern accent. And I'm like, well, what the heck is the problem? But then people started like sending me videos and showing me of Trump supporters going to Mexico on vacation. And they have their MAGA hats on, they have their MAGA shirts and everything on. And there's people in Mexico that's confronting them. Like, how the hell are you here with that crap on? And they
Yeah.
didn't understand it and they didn't get it. And most of the videos, it's just kind of like people filming and talking crap about them. They're not getting physical or aggressive with them. But from what our concern was when it came to Kelsey was they haven't been like aggressive to them yet. And so you don't want to take that risk. And so that they had to like, okay, we got to cancel that. And we'll just have to figure something else out. But the way that Donald Trump is treating their people, he's calling them immigrants, he's calling them rapists, he's calling them all this crazy crap, scum and vermin and all this other kind of crap. But yet you want to go on vacation where the rapist is, where the vermin
Yeah.
is, where the criminals are. Why do you want to go to vacation there? It's just kind of like the audacity for you guys to come into our country the way that you're treating our people. But not only that, but you want to come here with that same mentality and energy. Like you see them on beaches with their, I seen one woman with like a red, white, and blue bathing suit on and a MAGA hat, putting like sunscreen on. And then the woman that was recording it, she was like, I can't believe this bitch. And then she just like, she went to go confront her, but they just don't, the entitlement is just, it's a different level. And I don't have the vocabulary to describe it, but it's pretty unbelievable.
I got to tell you, if I was a Trump-the-fuck in full regalia, and I will tell you, this is more of a maroon shirt. It looks like it's red here on camera. But
Yeah.
if this was bright red, my wife would say, take that motherfucking thing off. You don't wear anything red. And I agree with her. I agree with her. But if I'm going down to Mexico and I'm a Trump-the-fuck and I'm in full Trump-the-fuck regalia, I would think ahead and think, there's some rough ass people in people with the Mexico, people with the cartel and stuff, and they definitely aren't going to like you. And you can disappear in Mexico pretty quickly and they'll never find you. And if they put you in jail, a Mexican jail is not a fun place to be.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine why you would be so stupid to do that. You think they think Donald Trump and the country and MAGA is so powerful they can walk right in their house and be welcomed.
Yeah.
Bullshit. I hope you get what you deserve.
I think that the fact that they, not that I've seen, I haven't seen anyone be like violent. I've seen them be confronted and stuff like that. But it just shows that these are not violent people. Like
Right.
they're not.
Right.
Because you were doing the things that you were doing to Hispanic people for no other reason than being Hispanic. And then you just go to their country and nothing happens to you. I mean, that should be proof enough. These are not violent people. Because you can't do that up in my house. You cannot talk shit like that and think you just to come over here and sunbathe and eat and party and kick it. No, that's just not gonna happen. You're gonna be
Yeah.
on a t-shirt with a GoFundMe because I just don't understand how they feel that they could do that. But you know, I'm
Well,
at a loss on that one. But yeah.
before we get off on the Trump and all the other stuff, because there's plenty to talk about, it's fucking silly. You had one other story, and again, it's tied to your work with young women or young girls that are pregnant and trying to help them out and guide them along the way through their process. Maybe you can tell that story too.
Yeah, I think this one was the one that kind of made me just like I was like, I will call in to work and I'm just gonna stay in bed because I can't deal with this. But
Yeah.
one of the girls, she was assaulted by her uncle, her mother's brother. And she came here, they stayed with us, her and her mother. She got the care that she needed. She went back home, but she was in a part of our group that I have with the other girls that stayed here. And they have been hit by like a disaster and they're not getting any kind of relief. So I was like reaching out to her and her mother, like, hey, if you need her to come back here, my door is open. I have no problem with that. And her mother kept saying no. So I'm like, all right, I guess she has it handled. And then she calls me and she's just like, hey, can she come there for a little bit while she had to get stuff straightened out. And she's on the phone with her daughter, but I know her. Like she's like a motor mouth and she was just quiet. She wasn't really talking. She wasn't excited about coming here, nothing. And so then I reached out to her privately and to come to find out her uncle, the guy that abused her, he's displaced right now because of the natural disaster. And so the mother was like, okay, well, I'll go send her to stay with Old for a little bit and you can come stay here. And so she was, once again, choosing her brother over her daughter. So I guess she forgave her brother for whatever reason. But in addition to that, she has two younger siblings that's there. And I'm like, well, they need to come. But I guess she was thinking because they're boys that her daughter could come here and her boys will be safe. And from my point of view, like, no children is going to be in a house with a pedophile. Like, do you
Yeah.
want me to call CPS? Like, what do you want me to do? So I don't know if I bit off more than I can chew on that, but she had no problem. She sent them here. The only thing that is I see it as being good, but I don't know if the kids are going to adjust. Is she's going to go because her mother signed over guardianship to her aunt and her uncle in another state for 6 months. Hopefully, she can stay longer than that because her mom is just gone in the head. Um, so her auntie and her uncle, she's going to go stay with her. The younger two, they have a different father. So they're going to go stay with their dad, and their dad stays with his mom. So they'll be in the house with their dad and their grandma. But it's not easy to tell kids that you're going to have to be separated, no matter how bad the home life was. And it's not like they separated in the same state. These are like completely different states. And
Right.
so I think that they are glad that they're leaving because their home was pretty. I'm not laughing, but it's just like, how the heck are y'all still supporting Trump when y'all don't have like walls? You know what I mean?
Right.
I think they're happy to be out of that environment, but they're not going to be happy to be separated from each other. So they're going to be here for 2 weeks, and then they're going to go their separate ways. She's going to stay with her aunt and uncle, and the younger two kids, they're going to go stay with their dad. And that's the part that they're not looking forward to. I talked to her auntie yesterday, and she was just screaming and going off on the phone. Something that I didn't know was that the brother used to like touch them and stuff when they were younger. And she was just saying he should have never been around the kids in the first place
Right.
because this is what he did to us. Um, and then that's the one, I don't know, I was talking to you and I was telling you about the church. Remember the church? That's the girl that I was talking about. So they have like the flooding and stuff there. And since they don't have those grants for the school programs, the
Right.
kids would go to church on Sunday just so that they can eat. Or you know what I mean? But
Wow.
after the floods happened, the pastor is like, okay, yeah, so we're just gonna do online services because it's not safe for you to travel to church. And so she was telling me, she's like, this has nothing to do with traveling to the church. They just want to close the doors because they don't want us there. They don't want to have to feed us. They don't want to have to help us out. Now the daughter can see that, but the mom can't see that. And so she did. She made them watch church virtually on Sunday, and she put in her
Wow.
debit card and donated to the church on Sunday and all that stuff. And so rightfully her daughter was pissed and she was ready to leave. And she's glad to be here. It's just that, anytime she thinks about being separated from her brother, she kind of have like those little moments where she doesn't want to be separated. But we just been telling them like, hey, there's holidays, there's breaks in school, all that stuff. Y'all can always link up. You can still talk on the phone. You can still see each other virtually. I know that's not the same because I wouldn't want to be like that if I was her age with younger siblings, but it is what's best. It's gonna suck for them to be separated like that.
Now, when I've been texting with your brother, I told him I was going to say something to you, uh, and
So
take it in the spirit it's given. Okay. And you
uh,
can take this advice or not. I mean, both your brother and I know who you are, and you're going to do pretty much what the fuck you want. But you're a consummate activist. You're very compassionate and have a lot of passion for people and empathy for people. But you put a lot of shit on your plate. You put yourself in California, you end up in a detention center. You're dealing with people that aren't necessarily stable. And then you take it all in and you struggle with some of that stuff. Here's the thing,
yeah,
old soul. We only got so much time on this earth, and being helpful and compassionate is an admirable thing. But you got to make time for your own life. You got kids, you got a boyfriend, you got family. You got to make time for that. I understand you want to help out as much as you can, but you can't take the whole world on your shoulders. You got to make time for yourself. Like I say, it's admirable, but I don't want you to see you get wrung out for this or maybe be put in danger. And don't tell me I won't be in danger because you were in a fucking detention center. So you got to kind of balance this a little bit. Again, you can take my advice or not, but I'm an old man, so obviously I'm smart.
I think I know like the reason that it's catching up and I have bad days like I did yesterday. horrible is I was like running like full steam ahead. And I was like, just get through the election. It's going to be all right. Help these women and these girls. We're going to be all right. But then I didn't have a backup plan for when it didn't turn out
Right.
that we wanted. And then again, I didn't think, I knew it would get bad, but I didn't know that it would be bad this quickly. Um, and I just be thinking like, when I was in an abusive relationship or when we were struggling with my grandmother, it was like we always like kind of needed somebody to show that they cared.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just sometimes I feel like I know this is what she would want me to do, but then I don't know. It's a lot. I guess I have to think about shuffling and prioritizing certain things because it's a lot, and it'll
Well,
catch up with you. And I didn't even expect it to catch up with me, but it did. So,
well, and you have a lot of people just right there in your community that count on you. You're involved in a lot of stuff there. Um, just doing what you're doing there is enough. I mean, we can't take the world on our shoulders. We can't fix everything. It's insurmountable for one person to do. And this is why I always tell people just do what you can. If it's a little bit or it's a lot, do what you can. It's all pointed toward the same direction and the same amount of good. But um, how do I explain this? Um, as somebody who's been a father, um, I'll put it to you this way: you're on a plane, okay?
yeah,
You're on a plane, and they give you the little thing about saying if we lose cabin pressure, the mask come down. Put it on your face first, and then your child's, which seems kind of harsh, but when you think
yeah,
about it, it's not. Because if you don't put the air mask on your face first and something happens to you, then your kid has no protection at all. So make sure you're good and you're healthy and you're rested so you can continue doing the good things you do. If you drag yourself out and wear yourself out and emotionally break yourself because of this, then you can't help anybody. So it's important you keep yourself straight, keep yourself healthy, and keep your wits about you. So don't do too much. Otherwise, you won't be able to do anything.
yeah. That's a good way
That
of
makes
looking at it.
That makes a
That's
lot of sense, and I can tell it pisses you off.
it makes sense, but that's a good way of looking at it. Um, I don't know because I just don't really have like those type of days, but it was pretty bad just to see what who people are. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Just the ugliness of some of these people is just insane. But to see it is one thing, but to be kind of like up close and personal with it is something completely different.
yeah.
Um, and I do have a hard time separating myself for some of that. Like if there was a girl that stayed here and I'm feeling like she's okay, and then I sent her back to a situation where she would be all right, and her mother is like, I thought her mom was like seeing stuff differently, but apparently not. I always knew she was a religious nut, but not.
Yeah,
I thought that she learned from having certain people around her daughter, and it seemed like
right.
she just didn't hear about that. And then having to think about her and her brothers being separated, and then two women just go missing, and I know what they're getting ready to go through. It just,
I know it's
it,
tough. It's tough for us to hear the story. But
yeah,
again, you can only do what you can do. And it's unfortunate. I mean, this is what we knew when all this was going to happen. You knew better than I did because I didn't think it'd get this far. I honestly didn't. I thought there would be decent people on the Republican and the Democratic side that would do everything to stop it. Well, fuck me. I was wrong. And I admit I was wrong by that. And I'm disappointed because I put a lot of faith in people and it didn't pan out. Um, it's hard not to be feel bad about this, but unfortunately, you got to look at the realistic aspect of this and what the people will say. Well, if we don't do this, we don't do that, people are going to get hurt. Unfortunately, given the circumstances we're in, people are getting hurt and more people are going to get hurt. And while I hate that, all we can do is what we can do. We do the best job we can with the things we're going after. It's unfortunate that people are being hurt. It bothers me to no end, but I can only do so much. I can't stop that stuff. So I'm going to focus on those things I can fix and protect.
yeah, because there's kind of like a helpless feeling when you're watching it
It is.
unfold. And it's like, oh my God. But it, like your emotions can go from one extreme to the next. You know what I mean? Like I could feel
Oh,
sad when I'm looking at alligator Alcatraz, and then I could be infuriated when I see Trump out there just giving tours, and I see the alligator Alcatraz merch and all this stuff going on, and we're just like, you can feel sad and angry at the same time. Like I've never felt so many emotions all at once and not have any like wherewithal of how to deal with that. You know what I mean? It's just, it's crazy.
well, the one advantage I have being a man that most women don't have is that for better or worse, because of the way I grew up, I am able to compartmentalize things because I know if I get weakened by one thing, I can't be strong on the other things. So somehow I'm able to put it in a box, put it on a shelf, focus on what I got to focus on, and then deal with the other later. It's a hard thing to do. I understand that. I grew up with a father that kind of forced me to do that just for
Mhm.
survival. So it's something I carry with me now, and that's why when people ask me, "Why aren't you emotional about this?" Because when I'm doing this, emotions don't play into it. The only emotion I have when I'm doing something like this or on TikTok is I'm pissed. I'm pissed because we're dealing with bullies and I want to fight back in that sense. That's the only emotion I have. The sadness and stuff, that's comes at other times. But when you're fighting, you got to focus on the fight. And that's what I try to do. And I know you're a fighter too. But it also takes its toll on you. It doesn't really take the toll on me because I put it on the shelf. Got to maybe compartmentalize some stuff and deal with the stuff you can and not the stuff that you have no control over.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. I did tell you that that woman that I met on July 4th, she was that clinic or that hospital that she was working in, it closed down. And then she was like, well, we were like in this area, they were like looking in California, because I guess she comes from like a family of nurses. Like they're all nurses, brothers, mom, dad, like they're all nurses. And then she was saying, because I asked her, I was like, do you feel like maybe you should have just stayed there, even if you were in another county, just to help out? And she was like, no. She was like, because, and I think I told you this when she said that she had patients that did not believe that they were closing. They were
Right.
saying that, oh, this is the left's propaganda. This is like they just did not believe it. And they were ready to go. They were just sitting back and they were saying, like, if this bill passes, we have to start making other arrangements. And so I guess they're kind of like slowly closing. So they're like trying to help patients figure out other in-network providers, how far they have to go for this, for that, where they can get their meds at. And she was just like, half of the people, like, they just don't believe it. She was like, so they're gonna literally like come for an appointment one day and it's gonna be closed doors and a sign on the door. And she was like, I just cannot be around these people anymore. So they've been like, she was gonna go to California, but she's seen what was going on there. She was like, yeah. So she's been like in like these states around here, looking for other work and stuff. And then I guess her family is just going to follow her when she finds somewhere to go. These people are going to
These
be so short on doctors, on beds, on anything. And they're still not believing that these places are going to close. It's crazy.
I'm
It's
embarrassed
crazy.
to say that I'm embarrassed to say this, but when it comes to Trump LaFuck suffering, I take a little joy in that. But when they get blindsided, when they expect it not to happen and they get blindsided, I get
Say that.
fucking giddy. I get giddy because it's the only thing that's going to rewire their minds to think normally. They are so fucking much in a cult and they are so delusional that they will
Yeah.
continue to say it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. And then when it happens, they're going to lose their shit. The faster they lose their shit, the faster we can get some
I look,
resolution to this and move on in the right direction.
I look at stuff like that and I feel frustrated, a little bit angry, and then it's like a part of me that just feels sad. Like, man, this is just a hurt. Like, I really do feel like all of that at the same time. Like, oh yeah, this gonna hurt y'all because y'all need care, and you gonna have to drive 2 hours to get care. It, yeah, I be feeling all that at the same time, but you know, I'll
Yeah.
figure out how to.
I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with the Trump fucks and the administration and the cabinet and all that stuff. For the longest time, we sit here and we talk about it. How are we going to take down? How are we going to destroy MAGA? And we've tried a lot of things. We've done a lot of things, and none of it seems to work. But I'm
Yeah.
starting to get the feeling that the way MAGA is going to get taken down is they're going to take down themselves. And I'll tell you where. Of all the crimes and corruption these fucks have committed, I
Hmm.
really believe it's going to be the Jeffrey Epstein thing, because for years and years they crowed about Jeffrey Epstein didn't commit suicide. Jeffrey Epstein's got a client list. And people like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel said, we got to release that. It's Biden's holding it back and Biden's doing this. So now they had to be careful what they asked for because they fucking got it. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino in charge of the FBI. Pam
Hmm.
Bondi is in charge, the Attorney General in charge of the DOJ. And they get in there, and for whatever reason, they go, nope, he did commit suicide. And nope, there's no list. In fact, what Pam Bondi is doing is covering up serious crimes as if there is no crimes. Well, that's ironic because Ghislaine Maxwell is in jail for 30 years for those same crimes, and she wasn't the main character. Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of crimes. So to suggest there's no crimes is fucking ridiculous. And whether there's a list or not, here's what we know for sure. There is evidence, there is audio tapes, and there is videotapes. Otherwise, these people wouldn't have been convicted of these crimes. And on those audio and videotapes and in this evidence, evidence was redacted. And why was it redacted? To keep the names out of it, right? So you
Hmm.
don't need a client list. You do have a list indirectly by just unredacting the evidence we know you had, the stuff that you said was on your fucking desk. But the thing
Yeah.
about it is, MAGA's losing their shit.
I
The
mean,
Republican media is losing their shit. You promised us. And now it's so transparent that they're just covering it up. And we know the cover up is the worst part when you do something like this.
yeah, Maxwell isn't in prison for trafficking women, or not women, but trafficking young girls to nobody, nowhere. Like
Yeah.
she's in there because she trafficked them to traffic these young girls to people. So who are the people that she trafficked them to, right? But I do think that this is causing a bigger divide in MAGA than I think was expected, because it seemed like this type of stuff with them, it happens like here on Monday, and on Thursday it's gone. They don't care about it anymore, right?
Yeah.
But I think the reason that this is sticking and the reason that it's going on, and it's not because they care about these kids, it's not because they want justice. I
No.
mean, because I don't see any of them at any meetings at City Hall when their representatives are trying to eliminate laws against child marriage. I don't see them having a fit when 11 and 12-year-olds have to flee their states to get abortion. They're not tripping because sexual assault kits are going untested. These are the same people who have no problem with Matt Gaetz having his own show, and they sit there and watch it. They don't give a damn about these kids. What it is these people can go to, they see what's going on. They know that tariffs are bad. They know when they go to the gas station, it's not $1.99. They know that the price of groceries is not dropping. But instead of them saying, like, hey, he was supposed to do all these things and he's not doing that, they're too cowardly to say that. They won't step outside of that group thinking. I think the Epstein thing gives them an excuse to kind of like stick the middle finger to Trump and the administration. But not only that, but it's giving them this, I guess, like this moral high ground that they can take as they exit. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, we don't care about anything else, but it's about the children. It's the children. So we have to leave. We can't deal with this anymore because of the children. It's just an excuse for them to leave a situation that they already know is a bad situation. These people know what's going on and they're waking up to that. They just need an excuse to leave. And this is the perfect excuse because it's like, oh, okay, yes, an excuse to leave, but it's also like a moral excuse. It's we could take the high road here type of thing. It has nothing to do with the kids. They were looking for a way out, and this Epstein situation is giving them that way out, if that makes sense. That's how I see it.
Well, these people, these MAGA, when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, his suicide, and the list, and all this stuff, they're like a
Yeah.
dog with a bone. They aren't ready to let this go. I saw a video of Alex Jones, absolutely irate, suggesting that he was ready to throw up. He can't believe that the Trump administration would do this. I heard Tucker Carlson say that, basically what I said, and also said that Pam Bondi is covering up serious crimes. We've got right wing people talking about it, and like I say, they're holding on to this like a dog with a bone. And I
Yeah.
just get the feeling this may be the one thing that really puts a deep divide between
Mm-hmm.
Republicans and MAGA. And the reasonable Republicans have to be going, Jesus Christ, this is, I mean, it's a cover up, but it's such a horrible performance in this cover up. I mean, it's so transparent. You get to look at the list, you get to see the evidence. You go, oh, nothing here. Clearly, you're covering it up because you don't like who's on the list. Now, Donald Trump is without question on the list. He was on the flight log 7 times. He's known to be best buddies with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey
Yeah.
Epstein called Donald Trump his mentor. That's documented. So there's something tied there. But I think there's another aspect of this list and this evidence. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just about Donald Trump. There's a lot of very powerful, wealthy, even famous people in Hollywood, in sports, in politics
Mm-hmm.
that were tied into this. So the pressure on the DOJ, I wouldn't be surprised if there is some threats of violence if they release this stuff. So they've got to deal with Donald Trump, but there are other people, that 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 are involved in this that would lose everything if it gets exposed. So there are people fighting pretty hard to keep that shut down, but it's hard to because we know they're lying.
Mm-hmm. I'm with I'm with MAGA and the calling out the administration on their crap, pointing out the obvious lies and everything else that's going on. Where they lose me at is everybody is puffing their chest out when it comes to Pam Bondi and the rest of the fools, right? But they are not really going after Trump like that. They're like, she needs to be fired. Bongino needs to go. Cash Patel, like all these people need to go, but they are not calling for Donald Trump's impeachment. They are not. And then the weird thing about it is, this is a man who, and they regurgitated this lie when he got caught with those classified documents. He can declassify anything that he wants. As a matter of fact, he doesn't even need to sign off on it. He could just declassify it by thinking about it. He can do that because he was the president. So why do they need Pam Bondi to release the information? Donald Trump could just do it with his mind, right? He doesn't need to do anything. He could just do it. He could just say, you know what? You're not handling it. I'm going to handle it. Maybe he could just write an EO and just say, hey, we're declassifying all of this. This is my executive order. So he's this big, strong, tough guy that he's no nonsense. When he wants to do something, he gets it done and he's da-da-da-da-da. But when it comes to the Epstein files, it's like, he needs to fire Pam Bondi. She's not doing what he wants. And I mean, like, it's just their brains
But
just
here's the
does not
thing.
connect the dots. But I don't
We
think
know they're
that,
we
go
we
ahead.
know they're thinking that fire Pam
They have,
Bondi, she's the problem. Fire Cash Patel, he's the problem.
yeah.
But in real terms, the problem is Donald Trump. So you can
Mhm.
fire Pam Bondi, you can fire Cash Patel. Does that mean the list coming out? No, because Donald
Mm-mm.
Trump doesn't want it out. He's always stammered and stuttered every time he's asked about it. Well, I don't think it's a good idea. There's a lot of people. That's the fucking point. And the Republicans wanted to say, well, it's all Democrats, Bill Clinton. I don't give a fuck who's on the list. If Bill Clinton, Mother Teresa, and Oral Roberts is on the list, I don't fucking care. everybody who's on that list that can be implicated in sex trafficking or abusing these young girls, they all need to go to fucking jail. I don't care what their party affiliation is. But for
Yeah.
whatever reason, Donald Trump does not want it out. So he can fire Pam Bondi and Cash Patel, but they're still going to go, Don, you fired him. So now let's put it out. And he ain't going to let it go out.
I never like go in comment sections and stuff like that, but I just could not help myself. And every single time I saw someone saying fire Pam Bondi or going after the DOJ or whatever, I was very, very quick to say, why doesn't Donald Trump just declassify it? If he could do that with the super confidential files that he had at Mar-a-Lago, he can do that with these Epstein files. And he wasn't even in office at that time. So why doesn't he do this? I have yet to get anybody to respond to that comment. That's MAGA. Now, normal, sane people, they just like, because he's on the files, duh. Like, I get those kind of comments, but from like the MAGA side, they're just radio silent there. Because you cannot sit here and say that he can do whatever he wants. He can declassify whatever he wants. He can release whatever he wants. It doesn't matter. Signalgate wasn't that big of a deal, according to these people, right? But when it comes to the Epstein files, all of a sudden, Donald Trump has both of his hands behind his back. And it's his underlings that have to take the fall for this.
Well,
I think that they are looking for an exit. They're looking for a way out of, I guess, being a part of the S show that's going on, but I don't think they want to tie that to Donald Trump for some reason. I think that they will eventually do it, but they're not there yet. I don't think they're there yet.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is if you tell me Pam Bondi won't release it, but her boss wants her to, all
Yeah.
Donald Trump has to say is fucking do it. But
And
Donald Trump doesn't want it done.
They're not asking him. They're directing their questions and their anger towards her or towards the other two stooges. But they're not really, it's like there's a few people that's doing it, but like 90% of the people, they don't. These are the same people who would say, he's taking away my health care. He's taking away my food assistance. He's like, took away my job. But I wouldn't have voted for Kamala Harris. I just wouldn't have voted at all. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't have to make sense. That's just how they are. So now they can look at the Jeffrey Epstein situation. It's still the same thing. It's like, yeah, I know Donald Trump's name was on the flight log, but he wasn't on the list. We don't know that it was on the list, but they would crucify anybody else's whose name was on the list. It's the mental gymnastics that they have to do. I think at some point, they're just not going to be able to do it anymore. I don't think they'll admit it to us publicly. But I think they know and they understand what's going on. They're just, or maybe they just don't want to risk being outside of the cult.
Well, here's the thing. I'll tell you what Donald Trump is going to do. It's going to be stupid. He's already done it. It's going to be stupid. It's going to be lame. So what's he do? Yesterday, when you hear this, they leaked out something that they're going to investigate Dan Brennan and James Comey. They're trying to throw some red meat out to the MAGA to try to distract them from Jeffrey Epstein. The problem is Jeffrey Epstein is prime rib to them, and Dan Brennan and James Comey is like skirt steak. It's not quite as good. So that's not going to distract them. And here's the problem with them. Why does so much shit leak out from Donald Trump's administration? You would think he'd be better with this, but this leaks out. Then he's in a press conference or a cabinet meeting or something, and Peter Doocy asked him, do you think these people should be put in jail? He says, well, I don't know about that, but they are criminals and they are bad and they are. So by doing what he did, if there was any case against Comey and Brennan, he pretty much shit-canned it because of prejudice from the president of the United States saying they're fucking guilty. I'm going to tell you this. There is going to be no investigation. It's just performative for them. They're throwing it out there to try to distract. Now, if you're stupid enough to be distracted, then you need a healthcare worker with you at all times because you're stupid. But that's the game they're going to try to play. But it's too deep. They can try to distract from this, but nothing's going to distract MAGA from what they always wanted. I'm willing to bet that a lot of people voted for Donald Trump just to get that Jeffrey Epstein shit. And if he doesn't get it, if they don't get it, they're pissed. And we're seeing people already pissed.
Epstein is just their way out. That's all
Oh.
that is. I think that I believe that even Donald Trump is surprised that his usual tactics isn't working, because they're not like, oh, car. You know what I mean? Like they're staying focused on it because they're already pissed. They're not getting what they want. Look at the bill you just, like, these people don't, like, you have the quote ones, but then you have just like other ones who is just like a notch above idiot. You know what I mean? And they are like, yeah, this don't smell right. And in addition to that, you have the podcasters on the right, and a lot of these people really do listen to them, and they follow their advice and they follow their lead. These are not free thinking people. So when you have the podcasters and the bros and all that stuff coming out, giving them permission to speak out against the administration, what's going on, even though they're not calling out Trump, they're giving them permission to say, no, we don't want no parts of it. So they're giving them permission to sidestep it. They don't understand that some of these podcasters, they are able to see where this is headed, and they know that it's not going anywhere good. So they're just trying to dip before it gets all the way to the end. They're just like, okay, we're going to bail out now. But the good part about that is the people that follow them, they will take their lead, and they will also try to jump off the ship before it sinks. And I think having certain voices in certain spaces tell them that this is not right, it gives them permission to leave, or an excuse to leave, because they don't care about these kids. I mean, Donald Trump released what are those brothers, the Tate brothers, whatever their names is. And they didn't even blink about that. They didn't care. Like, he literally went to another country's government and strong-armed them and got these trafficking pedophiles released. These people are so bad. Ron DeSantis was like, nah, y'all can't come to Florida. Like, and they didn't say nothing about that. They didn't care. They don't care about Epstein. They don't care about these children at all. They just need an excuse. And I think the reason that Epstein is sticking is because that's the perfect excuse for them. It's the perfect excuse for these podcast bros to get off the Trump train, whatever the heck that crap is that they're saying. I'm glad that is happening, but I just cannot bring myself to say that they care about these files because they want justice and they have a thing against pedophiles. These people do not care about that. So what they're doing, I'm with it. I'm not with the reason that is being circulated out here. That's all I got to say about that. These people don't care. They do not care. It's crazy.
I heard something on TikTok. I don't know that it's real, or where it would even go. But in one of the cases Ron DeSantis is in, I understand he's being investigated for human trafficking, for something he did. He paid money to have people sent out of the country that weren't even in his home state. And there were some documents created, forged, that suggested these people were in Florida. So there's an investigation into this. I don't know who's doing the investigation, and I don't know that anybody in the Republican Party would give it a serious look or not. But when this is all said and done, people like Ron DeSantis and some of these other people that don't have the immunity like Donald Trump suggests he has, there's going to be a lot of court cases. There's going to be a lot of investigations. And once Pam Bondi's gone and the Republicans are gone, there's going to be a lot of people going through some shit. They're going to pay a heavy price for standing by someone who's an absolute criminal in Donald Trump. And I'm looking forward to that time. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen eventually. We will come out the other side on this, and people are going to have to be held accountable for some egregious crimes, whether it's the ICE folks, the people who work for ICE right now. They should be looking over to the shoulders, not from protesters, but from what's going to come down on their shit when this is all done. What they're doing is essentially kidnapping It's against the Constitution. And when we have Democrats or somebody reasonable in place that understand that, they're going to have to make them accountable if we hope to fix what's going on in this country at this point.
Yeah, I can see them. I can see some of that are like some of that already starting to happen. I don't know if you saw it or not. I think it just came out today, but some of the top officials through ICE, they the top guy for like in charge of the deportations, his name was like Kenneth Goley or something like I can't remember, but it's like Kenneth. Last name starts with a G, but he took like a retirement buyout and he left. And then there's other officials at the top who have been put into other roles or they just quit. And then I've also seen that there were other, like the turnover rate has gone up a little bit. And I don't think that it's because they care. I think that they know that it's not going to go well for them. I know I see a lot of times with the in those cabinet meetings where he have everyone sit around the table, and it looks like they're just kissing his butt, which a part of it is. But if you listen to what they're saying, anytime someone like compliments them or asks them a question, they always start with like, well, this wasn't me. This was the brainchild of the president. The president came up with this. This was all Donald Trump. Give all the credit to Donald Trump. Like they are already pushing this off on him. They're complimenting him and they're kissing his butt because they know he likes that type of stuff. But anytime a reporter or something comes to them directly, they automatically push it back on Trump. Oh, well, this is under Donald Trump's leadership. The president, he has a vision. The president this, the president that. They continually put it on him. And for me, I'm like, maybe it's just the way I grew up or whatever, but I don't know how he is not paranoid that this is a setup. Because you can look at these people, they're just spineless. They will roll over in a minute. And then anytime they get the opportunity to have their name in the spotlight, the first thing they do is just put it back on him. And I think that there's a part of them that excuses their behavior because they think that they won't be held accountable. They're just following orders type of thing, and that's going to get them out of it. And the only way that that would happen and is possible that it'll happen is if we had a Democratic president and a Democrat Congress who felt like the country has been through enough already. And it's time for healing and time to come together and not time to hold these bastards accountable.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think that's
not gonna go in this country after all we've gone through. And if those people are doing that, thinking that they don't know history very well, because there were a ton of people convicted in the Nuremberg trials who were just following orders. You're going to be implicated as well. You did the misdeeds, regardless of who told you to do it. You did it, and you're going to have to pay a price. As I'm watching Donald Trump, I'm literally watching this guy lose it and just say stupid shit. We had a situation where there was a pause put on.
I don't think the fool ever had it, but go ahead.
But we heard about this story that there was a pause put on munitions that were intended for Ukraine missile defense or something like that. That was supposed to go, and it was put on a pause. We find out now it was Pete Hegseth, and apparently Pete Hegseth didn't talk to Donald Trump about that, which is grounds for getting fired for doing something like that. But Donald Trump is being asked questions, and he was talking about somebody asked him about the pause, and he says, no, we're talking to Ukraine. What Russia's doing, they're killing people. It's horrible. I felt like saying, Donnie, you're killing people too, and you don't give two fucks. They said, right. What about the pause? Who put the pause on? And Donald Trump said this. He said, I don't know. You tell me. You don't know, Donnie? You're the president. The buck stops with you. Somebody in your cabinet said to stop or pause military help to Ukraine, and you don't even fucking know. Well, he did know. He just doesn't want to say, and that's what he says about everything when he's caught in a corner. I don't know. I'll have to check on it. I'm focusing on this. I'm focusing on that. And then he was asked. Somebody followed up the next day. I saw this on Lawrence O'Donnell. I love Lawrence O'Donnell. He's probably the only one I like on TV anymore. But Lawrence O'Donnell said that there was a reporter that asked if you don't know what's going on in terms of this pause or anything else, what does that say about your administration? And
I saw.
Donald Trump says, I would know. I do know. I would probably give the order. You just said yesterday that you didn't know. Now you're saying you did know. So what's the real fucking story? Donald Trump is so confused and so backed in a corner right now, he doesn't know what to say. And every time he says something, he contradicts himself and looks like a fucking idiot. You can see he's getting nervous about this. He doesn't like those questions. That's why he put those plants in the press room. But people are
Mhm.
getting through and asking those hard questions, and he just doesn't know what to do.
I think that honestly, I think two things can be true at the same time. I think that Donald Trump didn't know. He had no idea what was going on. But that doesn't mean that Pete Hegseth didn't tell him or ask. And maybe, Donald Trump could have misinterpreted what he was being asked, maybe just didn't know what the heck he was talking about. Or maybe he knew he didn't know what he was talking about and didn't want to seem stupid, so he just went along with it. But then also, I don't see how something like this would not be up in his briefings, his daily briefings. It would have been in there. And
He
we know
doesn't
that he
he doesn't
read.
go to his daily briefings. He doesn't listen to the daily briefings. I'll tell you how simple this is. He gave the order to Hegseth. Hegseth did it. When it turned out bad, he said, I didn't know anything about it. He wants to blame Hegseth. Well, you should fire Hegseth for that too. But he won't. He knew. He just saw that it was going badly and that he wanted to separate himself from it. That's how simple minded this guy is. If something goes wrong, wasn't me. I don't know anything. That's just what he does.
You know what's sad about this? This is the president of the United States, and all three of those possibilities can be true, or it could be a
Yeah.
combination of. Um, it's possible that it was in his daily briefing he didn't see it. It's possible, very possible, that the fool was just lying because that's all he do. But then at the same time, it's possible that he had a meeting discussing it and he gave permission, and he had no idea what that was going to lead to.
Right.
This is a man who didn't have an idea, or he didn't understand what would happen if you started rounding up immigrant farmers or immigrant laborers. And then this is a man who said, hey, we have to stop that. And it's still going on and he still don't know about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This could just run in circles because what you just said could be true. He could be lying, but it's a possibility that he just does not know.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did you say Donald Trump could be lying? If he's talking, he's fucking lying. He's just flat out lying. That's just what it is. Now,
You're
it doesn't stop there about his confusion. It doesn't stop there. Um, Yesterday was the deadline for the pause on the tariffs, right?
right.
It was very clear. It was very clear that that was the deadline. So, Taco Donnie, the chicken, he said all these people were going to call and banging down the door. They're going to do deals. I'm going to do 90 deals in 90 days. Well, it's been 90 days. Zero deals. Zero fucking deals. Now he's sending out threatening letters, but he's pushed it back yet to August 1st.
Yeah.
He's in a meeting yesterday and they say, why did you extend the pause? Why did you change the deadline? Now, 2 days before, he sent out a executive order saying this is the deadline, July 9th, and this is what's going to happen, and we're going to do tariffs, and it was just a fucking a word salad of a directive. But he said it's July 9th. 2 days later, they say, why did you change the date? He said, I didn't change the date. It was always going to be August 1st. Well, Jesus Christ. My 5-year-old granddaughter could say, that's bullshit. And she probably would. But but that's the thing is it that he's just so caught up in lying anytime he gets in trouble? I mean, you raise kids, you know kids. I honest to God, I remember seeing my oldest son. We're out
Yeah.
at a cabin someplace. He's in his diaper. He's bent over, his face is red, and he's grunting. I said, dude, are you pooping? Nope. Definitely not. That's what Donald Trump is doing.
Yeah, yeah. I think, you know, it could be because I don't know when he is like hawked up on something and when he is just normal. And that's the sad part. I should be able to change or tell the difference, but now both of his personalities are kind of like meshed together into one. And I honestly don't think that right now Donald Trump can tell you that it's 7 days in a week, let alone what he said 2 days ago. His He has been allowed to get away with blatant, blatant lies. And his cult just accepts it. And he just is allowed to just run wild with lies. And it has no consequences for him, right? And so it's just for him, I think it's like breathing. It's just natural to him. That's just what he does. But when you put him in certain situations where the lies just don't work, or you have other countries who are, all right, well, you know what, we're not going to get our stuff from America. We're going to have to figure out how to get it amongst ourselves, right? And he doesn't know how to handle that because that requires patience, it requires diplomacy, and it requires intellect, and he doesn't have any of that. So the instincts that he has is failing him right now. And he really just, the fool just don't know. I think he just don't know when it comes to that. I think he has no idea. I really think he has no idea that that's something that he said. And that's not what reality is, which is crazy.
The only two absolutes you know about Donald Trump is first, if he's talking, he's most certainly lying.
Yeah.
Secondly, if he's squawking like my month and a half old grandson, if he's squawking, his fucking diaper's full, guaranteed. He's irritated. This motherfucker must go through so much Desenex uh, for how much time he spends with a full diaper. It's and he doesn't even do it himself. He hires somebody to change his diaper and do all this. This motherfucker can't even clean himself up from voiding whatever the fuck he's voiding. The guy is an infant, really. He's an
Mm-hmm.
infant in the way he talks, the way he acts, the way he behaves, his personal hygiene. I mean, the motherfucker is just a loser. If you saw him on a bus stop and you didn't know who he was, you'd avoid that motherfucker.
Yeah. Donald Trump is he's just rotten. He is
Yeah.
just a rotten human being on the inside and on the outside. He's just a rotten person. He really is. Um, and I think the people around him knows that. And to be honest with you, I think Donald Trump is starting to realize that too. And part of the telltales is like they don't even put his transcripts up on the White House website any longer. Um, you can see him rambling off like there's missing children. There's states with natural disasters going on. And you're sitting here talking about the chandelier and the color and the this and the that. The fact that it
And,
is so dangerous and
and how the
scary.
declaration he's putting
Yeah,
together the Declaration of Independence in the Civil War. Fucking president. You don't know that? It's just it's really it's really embarrassing. And if it wasn't Donald Trump, it's a little sad. I take great joy in him embarrassing himself. But if it were somebody else, I go, get him off the stage. Don't let him embarrass himself. But
yeah.
I have
It
the opposite feeling with him. Please let him embarrass himself.
it is embarrassing. And something that I said on July 4th when we went to the protest is there was somebody and he was talking about how bad it is. And
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, you know how he says that he said the same thing about Obama. The cupboards was bare. We didn't have bullets for guns and all that kind of crap. And now he's saying how Biden didn't know what he was doing. He left us this huge mess. He has to clean it up. Everything was so horrible. And The word that he likes to say is America was dead. We was dead under Biden and all that crap.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was true. So as bad as it is right now, if Biden had have left the economy the way that Trump says he left it, can you imagine how bad it would be right now?
Yeah.
If this is bad, it could be worse. So I was just telling him, like, hey, it could have been worse. Like, we are in a position to where we can survive it. But if it was as bad as Donald Trump and Republicans make it out to be, that Democrats was just spinning like drunken sailors, and it was just a hellscape, basically, is the way that they say that. If it was that bad, we would be so much worse. So I think that I try to find solace in the fact that it's bad, but it could have been worse. And that's not always comforting, but I think we have to remind ourselves of that. And because of the way Biden left it, we can get through it. And even though it's scary to see him, and it's embarrassing to see him, we also have to remember that he doesn't represent us. And fortunately, the rest of the world knows that he doesn't represent us. You know, like
Yeah.
when it comes to Canada, they talk about MAGA and red states. So they know who these people are. Even as far as like the firefighters from Mexico going to Texas to help, it's like, yeah, Donald Trump, he on this crap and this deportation stuff, but that's not the American people. That's just a handful of these fools, and he lucked up and got in there again. So I think because of our reputation, because of the presidents that we had in the past, that's what's kind of protecting us from a lot of this crap that's going on right now. Just imagine if Mexican firefighters didn't go to Texas. How would that
When
be?
when
Imagine
you bring
if
up
didn't
when
hop
you
in their
bring up
plane
the
to fly over those wildfires in California. So I
when
think
you
a
bring
lot
up
of
the flood, when you bring up the flood, and we talked about Pete Hegseth pausing the help to Ukraine, I think something else needs to be noted, and Republicans need to recognize this. In Texas,
oh God,
the Kristi Noem waited 3 days after the flood before she sent out help from FEMA. 3 fucking days. People dying. It started out, I had somebody send me a few days, 4 or 5 days ago, and said 15 people have died. Now it's like 120 people who have died, 160 people missing. She waited 3 days to do that. And the question is, why would you do that? And the fact that she did that, maybe you Trumplafucks that live in Texas that are struggling and suffering right now need to recognize that. You think they're here to help you. They are not. They are hurting you. And perfect evidence down in Texas during the floods.
I mean, they should have known because of what happened in Arkansas before that. I don't think that people know how bad it is. So the girl that came here, when I was talking to her on the phone, and she was like, "Oh, you have no idea." And she turned her camera like around so I can see. And I'm like, where the heck have you and your brothers been sleeping? Like, it's
Yeah.
like they're in a trailer, and it's like the trailer has been moved. There's holes in the floor where you can like literally look and see what's underneath the trailer. There's holes in the floor. The
Right.
floor itself is kind of like wet and soggy. Like when you walk, you can hear your sneakers like squishing into the carpet.
Wow.
People don't have like walls, they don't have roofs, especially if you're in like a trailer or something like that. It is bad. And these evangelical pastors are not out there helping or saying, hey, come stay in the church until this get fixed or that get fixed. These people are on their own with their children, and no food pantries out there to help them. They are just like on their own. I don't understand how I don't I don't I don't have words for that. I don't have words for that at all. They do not care. They don't care. And it's just kind of like if you have children who are missing, if you have children who are dead, if you have children who can't even go to camp and come back safely, if you
Right.
don't have a place for your children to sleep, if you don't have food, if you don't have any programs to help you get food, and it's like the most, it's inhumane and it's cruel. it's just, I don't know. I will say one thing because I was kind of upset and I was, feeling upset that she's and her brothers are in this condition. And Kelsey was like, I don't understand why Donald Trump just doesn't go unplug it. She was trying to make me laugh. And I was like, girl, what the hell are you talking about? And she's like, why he just don't go unplug it? She's like, when they had the wildfires in California, he turned on a faucet, he released the water, and he stopped the fires. Why doesn't he just go to Texas and unplug it so all the water could just drain out?
You
She
know,
did make me laugh, but it's just kind of like there's no planning. And then, that just to add insult to injury, Donald Trump still will not say, I won't reverse my decision on defunding FEMA. He is still leaving that option open.
yeah,
That's
no,
still
he's
an
definitely.
option to him to defund FEMA. Like,
You
as
were
of right now, today, that option is still on the table for him and it's still on the table for his administration.
so Greg Abbott can go into the coffers and pay for it himself. But the thing about it is that area of Texas floods regularly. But
Yeah,
usually it floods to the levels of maybe 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 feet normally.
yeah,
This time it was 30 feet. And that's why we have the destruction and the deaths that we have now. And I
yeah,
was thinking to myself, God, if you could only have known why something like this would happen. I heard a Republican, why would something like this happen? Well, I can tell you why it would happen. It's that hoax called climate change. That's why it's worse this time. That's why tornadoes are worse. That's why hurricanes are worse. We've got FEMA going down 3 days late to Texas. We've got hurricanes ultimately coming to Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida. And they spent, how much did they spend? Was it 450 million or billion? It had to be million, building that alligator Alcatraz, and they used FEMA money to do it. So what
yeah.
happens when a hurricane hits Florida and they got all this money tied up into this alligator Alcatraz, and if a hurricane hits it, it'll just wipe that shit out. It's fucking tense.
I would say that maybe they haven't thought about that, but I know they have. I think
They
they
don't
just don't.
care.
Yeah, because even when they asked Trump if he was going to replace the scientists that he fired from, the Weather Association, he just said, "No, I don't think we got to do that. No, we good." But the problem with Texas is that when they had that cold front and people were like literally freezing to death because they got that
Yeah.
archaic grill out there, and people were
Right.
just trying to say, hey, you need to give up that grill. And they were like, well, if we give up our grill, we give up our independence. So we would rather y'all freeze and get, power bills worth $5,000 than to give up this grill. And it's going to be the same thing when it comes to floods, is they're going to say, hey, if we, coordinate with the government and all that stuff, we're giving up all our power and all our control to the government. So it'll be better for us if children die and people are unhoused, because the alternative to that is to live under the government's rule. And I do think that the people who count, and when I say people who count, it's so heavily gerrymandered that you would have to get hardcore MAGA Republicans to vote to upgrade infrastructure. And they're just not going to do that if infrastructure means giving up your freedom to the government for some strange ass reason. But that's how they're
I
going
heard a
to look at it. I don't think
I
this
heard a
is a wake
comment.
at all.
No, no,
I
it's
think,
not. I heard a legislator or somebody official of some sort in Texas. Now this
mm,
you can blame Donald Trump for, but you got to blame the government of Texas too.
yeah,
Somebody
absolutely.
said somebody said, "Don't you think you should put more alert systems in?" And the guy's answer was, "I don't think we need to grow government to take care of this situation. We
Yeah.
don't need to grow government. Your job as the government is first and foremost to protect your citizens. But clearly, that's not what they intend to do, and
Mm,
and they will continue to put people at risk. because, like you say, the gerrymandering and the amount of Republicans in Texas. I mean, at this
Yeah,
point, whether it be Florida or Texas, who the fuck wants to go there now? They're both beautiful states, great tourist locations, but who wants to go there now? I mean, it's fucking dangerous. Whether you be an immigrant or whether you be in a area that doesn't have any protection.
yeah.
I mean, they've got to be taking a beating as far as tourism in those two states.
I don't see how they're not. Those are just like the worst places to be. It's like for me, I just feel sad because I've had, like women come here with their daughters, or even some women themselves who have had to leave to get medical care. And they still have that same kind of like mindset. Like they don't want the government like ruling over them and having too much control in their lives. They love their freedom, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you just have to flee your state and come here. And you think that the way your state is ran right now is freedom.
Yeah.
Making sense. But the sad part about it is far too many of them who think like that. And they've been trained to think like that their whole lives. They're not going to see it any other way. I think personally, it's up to the next generation. Like, I don't want to give up on an entire generation of people, but I don't, I don't see how they're going to change. Your state has
No.
been ran by the same people for like what 30 years, and for some reason, it's not the state's fault. It's transgender people's fault. It's immigrants' fault. It's the deep state fault in Washington, D.C. for some strange reason. It's all of these people's fault. But the people you continue to put in office, they have nothing to do with it. Greg Abbott, nothing to do with it. Ted Cruz, how come every time there's a natural disaster, this fool is on vacation? He ain't got nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? So it's just, they are not going to turn on the people that they continue to elect, no matter how bad these people treat them. So it's kind of like up to the next generation to say, we're tired of this crap. And to
Yeah.
start, I always say, like, vote your wage. You know what I mean? And I just say,
Yeah.
you got a W-2. You can't afford to vote for a Republican. You know what I mean? That's how they have to look at it. And until there's another generation that come along and see things different and think different, unfortunately, I think Texas is just going to stay the same. It's just going to be Texas, and Florida is just going to be Florida. It's sad to think like that, but that's just how it's going to be down there. It's not
I
going to
need
change
to
nothing.
reach out. I need to reach out to Jason, get his perspective about the flooding down there.
Yeah,
He's in San Antonio. I don't know if this has affected him. I haven't heard from him, so I got to reach out to him to find out everything's okay with him, and then
I
he'll
would,
have some insight on this whole thing.
yeah, you'll have to let us know. From the girl that's here, she said they were just like woke up in the middle of the night and stuff was just rumbling and tearing down.
Yeah.
Um, because they just didn't have no warning ahead of time. And I never thought about it. I take this for granted because I'm in Nevada most of the time, and my phone, like in the middle of the night, they like sounds would go off, and it's just like severe wind, desert storms or something that's blowing. It's just basically saying don't go outside. And it's like, why
Right.
are you telling me not to go outside at like 1 o'clock in the morning? I used to be so annoyed by that. But after seeing this, it's like, yeah, I won't complain that we actually get alerts over here. And I'm taking it for granted now because we don't get those kind of issues here. But that could change at any moment. You know what I mean? It's just weird that these people, they don't even want to have the warnings because I don't see them like flipping out. Have you seen anybody in Texas is flipping out?
No, no, I haven't. That's why I'd like
We,
to talk to Jason, see what the Texas perspective is.
yeah, we flipped out, but I haven't seen Texans on television. Matter of fact, I seen like one woman. And the only reason I saw her is because she was being interviewed by the news and she was crying and she was like, we need help. We don't have money. We need help. Like she was like begging, right? And then there was other people from the left that was like showing her timeline on her TikToks and her talking about the radical left and socialism and you need to get up and get a job and all this other kind of stuff, right? And they like, is this you? Is this you? And they were like playing her videos. But she was like the only person that I saw that was just kind of like outraged. The rest of the people, I don't know if they're just maybe not I'm not seeing them online, but people who are like in it, I don't see them like flipping out. We're flipping out, but I don't see them flipping out about it, which is kind of weird. That's
The
weird.
good news is that after the November 5th election, you and I and a bunch of people said we've got to control the narrative. We've got to keep shoving it in their face. We've got to embarrass them. Never in my wildest dreams did I think it'd be this easy because they're doing it to themselves. Jeffrey Epstein, pausing munitions to Ukraine, the floods in Texas. They keep failing over and over again. So it's very
Oh,
easy for us
no
to
new
keep
war.
this in the narrative. And with any luck, the Republicans will start joining in too because they'll start feeling the real pain.
Yeah, I think that maybe part of it is that they feel shame and they don't want to be like embarrassed for it on television because they know if they do,
Oh, yeah, they don't want to admit they're wrong.
it's gonna come out. Yeah, I think that could be it. Um, but I do think part of it is they don't like really feel anything until it affects them personally. Like we all say that, but I just now kind of like realized, and I was like seeing like a creator from the right, and they were saying, "Oh, you're just mad because you're not going to get your like Green New Deal." When we were talking about like infrastructure and stuff, like you're not going to get your Green New Deal projects, and that's why you're mad, and that's why you're upset. And it's just kind of like, no, like we're mad and we're upset because this is what's happening. But they don't see
Yeah.
it like they feel like we have to be mad for a reason other than the fact that people are dying, people are being rounded up, and they are having their rights taken away from them. They're being sent to concentration camps and being living in horrible conditions. We can be upset about that as a human being. But when they look at it, they say, oh, well, you're just mad because of blah, blah, blah. So it's not because of the human rights that's being violated and the atrocities that's going on and the fear that these children are living under. We're just mad because, they used the money to build Alcatraz instead of using the money to build, I don't know, a gender affirming hospital or something like that, right? Like they think that we're mad about material stuff instead of being mad about what's actually happening to people.
Well,
But
they think
that's
we
not.
think like them. We only care about what happens to us. And I've told Trumplefucks before, look, I'm a 65-year-old man. I'm retired. I have a pension. I have Social Security. I live in Minnesota. None
Yeah,
of this shit, the Green New Deal, all that stuff, is really not going to affect me because Minnesota is pretty progressive. It's not going
yeah,
to affect me. That's not why I'm mad. It has nothing to do with how it's going to affect me because it's not going to affect me as much. I'm
mm-hmm,
mad about innocent people being made to suffer. And that's how people should think. Don't think about just me. Think about
mm-hmm,
the country at large and the people that are suffering. And that's not just Democrats, it's obviously Republicans too. Maybe instead of thinking about just yourself, maybe you should look at the big picture and how that's going to affect our country down the road.
right. And I think that that's part of what's going on here. It's like it's affecting them, and maybe they just don't want to be embarrassed because a lot of these people are on record, like not caring about none of this stuff
Right.
or saying tear down the government, put everything back in the hands of the states, let the states take care of everything, let the states handle everything. When they don't even really believe that, because it's
Right.
like states' rights for everything, for when it comes to women and children, states' rights. But then when you turn around and you say, okay, well, for the next 10 years, no states can write laws in regards to AI. And then how are you taking
Mm.
that right away from the state? So it's just kind of like, I don't think that they grasp it. I'm sorry, I'm just at a loss for words. That's just don't think
Well,
they get it.
they keep talking about states' rights, but they send federal agents into states to pick
Yeah.
up immigrants. Let the states handle it. What the fuck? You either
Mhm.
want states' rights or you don't. And the bottom line is they don't care about states' rights. They only want the rights that they dictate, and everything else is wrong. And that's the major failure in their plan. They contradict themselves. They don't. They just want what they want. And, some of them are going to get it. And I wish I could say I feel sad for those people. I don't. I feel sad for the people that are innocent, that are being put upon because of the dumb fucks that voted for him. But the people that voted for him, I just feel like they need to learn a lesson before they can get their head straight.
Do you think that, so with when it comes to these people, they're all like conspiracy theory nuts, right? Like everything is conspiracy theory. I watched true crime, and there was like recently that Kohlberger, he murdered those 4 students in Idaho, and he
Right.
recently pleaded guilty. And someone was having a live, and they had an attorney there, and they were discussing it, everything. And there were like so many people in the comment section saying, "Oh, this was a setup. The government made him plead guilty. They don't want to find the real guy, or whatever." And I watch this person all the time, and he just told his expert, "I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude." And he said, "This is happening in multiple areas in this country." And he was like, everything is not an effing conspiracy theory. He's pleading guilty because he did it. Like, why does it have to be some underlining deep state, deep fake, whatever? And I'm just like, man, this is like bled over into like true crime. Like they have evidence that shows he's guilty. He pled guilty to doing it. And people still like it has to be a conspiracy theory. And so
Well,
I
it's not
was
a
thinking,
conspiracy theory. It's pretty simple if you understand the law at all. He was going to go to trial, and if was found guilty, he would get the death penalty.
yes.
So
And
he said, look, I'll admit to it, but I don't want the death penalty. I want life. It was a fucking negotiation that happens
yeah,
in courts all the time. Maybe he's got some other information that he can pass along that he traded for that deal. He's going to be in jail for the rest of his life, and whether he gets killed or not, I don't know that it makes a difference. Frankly, the reason why I don't like capital punishment is because I want these people to fucking suffer. And it's too
yeah.
easy just to kill them. Make them sit in jail for the next 50 years and make them pay the price.
Yeah, and where he's at, and this is happening to other states too, since they can't do the lethal injection combination, right?
Yeah.
They're like bringing back the firing squad, and that was what he was going to be facing, right? And I think he just didn't want to have to face that. I really do. I don't think there was any conspiracy theory there, but it's just
I
kind of
don't
like
know. It
every.
sounds fun to me. I don't know why he'd want to avoid that. There's got to be some conspiracy theory.
I was thinking that with Peter Thiel and the Palantir um,
Yeah.
government like surveillance that he has going on, if do you think that that could be turned around to a big conspiracy theory that would make them focus and care about that? Because it is government surveillance, right?
Yeah.
So would they care about that?
Well, not if it's their guys doing it. They don't care about anything that's egregious or bad as
But
long
it's the
as
government
their
spying on it.
leaders are doing it. What?
It's the government spying on everybody.
Yeah. Well,
Don't say
they'll do
on
this.
me.
They'll do the same thing that they did with the election and the tariffs and the Doge cuts. They think that it's only going to affect the people they don't like, and it's not going to affect them. You would have thought they learned a lesson. I'm good. I've heard some people talk and complain. Republicans complain about the cuts and the tariffs and all the bad things that's going on. And I've heard more than three people say this. And I'm convinced this is maybe one of the reasons why most of the people voted for Donald Trump over and above everything else. And it sounds silly, but when you think about these people and the way they talk, they voted for Donald Trump for one reason: to own the libtards. They didn't
Yeah.
think about the ramifications of the things he was going to do. Oh, this will be great. We'll vote for Donald Trump and the libtards will cry. Well, motherfuckers, now you're crying. So good luck with that and best wishes.
I was thinking that something that we could do on the left, but I don't even know if this is going to work, is there's stuff that's in this bill that's just like horrible.
Yeah.
And I could see how it would easily be a huge conspiracy theory on the right. And I think that those are the things that we should push more than, because clearly, like, a lot of these people, like, hey, you wouldn't need food assistance if you just got up and got a job. They don't care about that. Like, they literally don't care about that. But when it comes to like Palantir, I think he got like what, Peter Thiel, like $448 billion
Yeah.
for his surveillance. And then in addition to that, I know people think that Elon Musk is like, he fell out with Trump and he's not in the government anymore. Yes, he is. He just had in the bill, the contract that he got was, what's that, Neuralink? That's that brain thing that he works,
Yeah.
the brain chips. They just did their first human trial on that. And he just signed a contract with Miami. I think it's like what, University Medical Center of Miami or whatever. That's where he's going to be having his brain experiments at, putting chips in people's brains. And then you have RFK Jr. over here cutting funds for the CDC and the NIH, but yet now he's getting money for his wearables. It's, to me, like, that type of stuff is like, okay, yeah, this is crazy. They trying to like surveil us. They're trying to spy on us and all that stuff, right? But for MAGA, those would be like crazy conspiracy theories that they would like latch on to and not let go. So that could be kind of like a Jeffrey Epstein type of thing to kind of like keep their minds going and seeing this administration trying to like tread on them and invade their privacies and all that type of stuff. Do you think maybe that would, pushing that, because it's true, it's in the bill, that would be better than talking about hungry children and their Medicare and Medicaid being taken away from them?
Honestly, I think the best thing to do has nothing to do with telling people facts because we know they have an aversion to facts. They don't believe facts. There's only one thing to do, and people are doing it now, is to constantly embarrass Donald Trump and the
Yeah.
Republicans. That's the thing that will cause them to spiral out of control. It seems very petty, but you got to understand the mentality of these fucks. Embarrass them at every turn. And the more we corner and embarrass Donald Trump, he'll spin faster and hit the ground faster and crash in a steaming pile of shit, literally and figuratively. That's what we need to do. We're getting toward the end here. I'm going to wrap things up, but I just wanted to say one positive thing that Donald Trump has done since he's been elected. And it may not even really be a positive thing, but it's good for me,
For
and that's
us,
all
our
that
positive
matters.
coming out here, because she'll have to deal with his butt as much as she used to.
Well, here's the deal, though. I got on a plane today. I went from Savannah to Nashville, Nashville to home. Guess what? When I went through security,
Take it off.
didn't have to take my shoes off. Yay, win. Go MAGA.
I gotta tell you, when my daughters came down for their visit, they were both like, "We didn't have to take our shoes off. What the heck is going on?" And I'm like, "What?" So yeah, that was a big thing for them.
That was a big deal for me. But it's probably the things they're doing with TSA is going to make it less safe to be on planes. So that's a bad thing. Well, Old
I
Soul,
mean,
I appreciate you
it's
coming on, man.
it's a 50-50 chance when you get on a plane. Have you experienced this? Because I've experienced it twice. You know, I travel like a lot, but it's only happened twice. Is when the plane lands, have you had people like clapping and stuff when it lands, like, woohoo, we got here safe? I've experienced that on two flights.
I tell you what, I fly on different things. I fly on Sun Country a lot. Okay. It's a local place and they go all over. They go to Savannah and stuff. But I took Southwest back to Nashville and Southwest back to um, Minneapolis. And I will say this, I'm not a complainer. I didn't complain. But that first flight to Nashville, I've
Yeah.
never been more uncomfortable in my life on a plane. It was just stuffed. But what struck me is the flight was so much rougher than I've ever experienced. A lot of turbulence. That's not their fault. But the landings, my
Oh,
God, I don't
yeah.
get scared by landings, but I'm going, what the fuck? I'm trying to hold myself in my chair because the G forces. So I don't know what it was, but I was not pleased with Southwest Airlines. So if
One,
I don't know who YouTube puts as a sponsor. Probably don't want to put them on there. You're going to get shit.
I had one rough landing, so I know what you're talking about. But I
Mine
do think,
too.
um, sometimes I say like people need to be in certain situations, and I wish they wouldn't quit. Like the nurse that was out here, I understood why she was leaving the South and looking for hospitals and clinics in other states. But sometimes when it's teachers, I don't think that they should leave either because it's not the children's fault. I get
Right.
that. But sometimes when it comes to like TSA and different things like that, as inconvenient as that would be, there's a part of me that just be like, why don't I wish they would go on a strike? I really
Yeah.
do. We not flying no planes around here until you guys make sure that we are fully staffed and that we are under working conditions, which will make us function to our maximum capacity in our
Right.
jobs. Like, I don't want
Right.
a plane crash with hundreds of people's deaths on my hand because you decided that I didn't need a coworker because he was black or a woman. You know what I mean? Like, I wish that those people would strike because if they striked, it would kind of be like a change instantly. They could actually make a difference. Like we see the garbage workers just strike.
Yeah.
They weren't
The
out that
last
long.
the last thing
you
I
know,
want to mention
so I wish certain
last thing
industries would strike though.
last thing I want to mention before we close this out, since we're talking about transportation. You know who the
Yeah.
transportation director is? Sean Duffy, who's
So
famous for being on Road Rules on MTV back in the day. That's his claim to fame. He's now the
he worse than,
transportation director.
he's worse than the new FEMA director that don't know there's a hurricane season, but go ahead.
But you're going to love this though. He's not only doing such a great job as transportation director, Donald Trump just gave him a side hustle. He is now also the interim director for the NSA.
You lying.
Motherfucker can't do his first. No, I'm serious. Check it out. I saw it on Raw Story or something. When's he got time? He can't even run the transportation department.
I think part of the problem is they don't have like certain presidents like Joe Biden, even Kamala Harris, they can pick whoever they want to be in certain roles. But you're not going to get the top experts in your field to be in a Trump administration. So you're just going to have to work with what you got. So I can understand how it happened. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with that at all, but it is what it is. It's just,
Oh, wait,
it's
wait,
just
wait, wait a minute. I have to correct myself. I saw this quickly. This makes a little more sense.
okay.
He's the transportation director. He's not the interim director of NSA. He's the interim director of NASA, which is a little better. It makes a little more sense. Well, it doesn't make any sense because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. So he's got a side hustle. He's got so much extra time being the transportation director that now he's going to run NASA too. So at least he's not in intelligence because this guy is not intelligent.
I'm just gonna fill out I need to fill out an application. I need to. You know what I mean?
I,
Like my my biological father is an engineer. My honey is an engineer. My daughter is pretty smart. My brother, I got a lot of smart people around me. So you know what? I think I would be good for one of those rocket jobs. What you think? I
I,
could do
I
it.
think, I think I would put it in. I wouldn't put a picture with it though. The fact that you're black is not going to help you in that situation because
This is
that would be
idiotic sometimes
that'd be
too.
too
Like
woke.
the movie makes us look like the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. All right, old soul. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it immensely. People love hearing from you, so I'm glad we were able to connect this up. Those of you listening, thank you for taking the time. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.